happening now in Washington. A look at President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Neil Gorsuch, and the potential fight between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate for approval. So we're talking about people in the streets and demonstrating. Let's talk about some of the powers that be now in Washington and the mechanisms that they're using to fight each other and maybe try to push back some nominations. Now, Supreme Court-wise, I'm going to start with you, Stephen, because you've got a little expertise in the Supreme Court area. Give me your take on the nominee and what you think is going to be happening.
I think Judge Gorsuch is a pretty prototypical conservative judge, somebody who's got a really good track record, who considers himself an originalist, constitutionalist, those kind of things. A pretty typical pick for a Republican president. Not William Pryor, I think, is the immediate sort of thing that I noticed. Somebody who is much more of a conservative activist on the bench than Gorsuch is. I'm interested in his history, clerking for Justice White, clerking for Justice Kennedy. He sits on the 10th Circuit, one of the Western circuits. I think a lot of conservatives 10 years from now might look back and think, we missed what this guy was really about. I think he will be somewhat of a surprise over time for people on the court. But I think it's impossible to separate the qualifications of this judge from the context in which this whole thing happened. I mean, the stealing of a seat from one president to hand it to another was unconscionable. And so I think it puts Democrats in a really interesting position. Do you prosecute that issue through the nomination of this judge, which wouldn't be right, including not right to this judge because he didn't do it, or do you go ahead and say, this is a good judge, we're going to confirm?
Are we going to see that kind of fight, or are we going to see fights in other areas?
We're going to see a fight over everything. I think he's a good judge. I think a very good judge. I think he's closer to Roberts than he is to Alito in both viewpoint and temperament. I think he would be a very good Supreme Court justice. And, Democrats are rightfully angry. What happened to Merrick Garland wasn't right. And we've said that on our pages a number of times. But you have to remember, before Garland, Republicans did confirm 2 liberal Supreme Court justices nominated by Barack Obama. I would say that if you get to the last year of Trump's term and an opening comes, they would have every right to say, hey, we're going to do the same thing.
I think they shouldn't do that. I think they shouldn't do that. That's not, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that. There's nothing in our history that says that.
No, but you could say fair play then. Right now, I think if I were Chuck Schumer, I'd be very interested in preserving that 60-vote rule, because you never know what the next nominee is going to look like.
All right, we're going to have to take a look at that.